Chapter 15 is called The Next Cipher. When the McDonald family climbed back into the RV after the vacuum cleaner episode, there was a 6 by 9-inch manila envelope on Coke's seat. He didn't think anything of it at first and put it aside. It wasn't until a few minutes later that he realized the envelope had not been there before. He tore it open. Inside was a sheet of lined paper with this written on it: SSGBETPLARAAENXRNDNX. Another cipher. Oh no, Coke muttered out loud. What is it, honey? Asked his mother from the front of the RV. Nothing, Mom, Coke said. I just dropped something. Silently, he handed Pep the sheet of paper. His photographic memory was very powerful, but when it came to deciphering secret messages, he was pretty much useless. Pep looked over the paper. There was no obvious patterns. Backwards, the letters meant nothing. Skipping letters didn't work. None of the usual strategies she knew seemed to fit. Embedded words like BET or bet were always a distraction. She could solve some ciphers almost instantly. This one was not easy. It would take some time. Dr. McDonald suddenly pulled off the road into a strip mall. Why are we stopping, Ben? Asked Mrs. McDonald. I saw a cell phone store, he replied. We need to get new ones for the kids. Oh, yeah. You, dear reader, who has been paying careful attention and perhaps even taking notes, certainly recall that Coke and Pep cell phones were ruined. They had been soaked in ice cream, hot chocolate sauce, and water back at the amusement park in Sandusky. While the twins didn't really need to have cell phones, the Dr. McDonald considered it a safety issue. If for some reason the family got separated, they would be able to get in touch with one another if they had all had cell phones. After they picked out phones, Coke and Pep ducked outside the store while their parents worked out the details with a clerk. Did you figure out the cipher yet? Coke asked his sister. You just gave it to me like a minute ago, she replied, annoyed. Do you think you'll be able to figure it out? I don't know, Pep said irritably. I'll do my best. Paced nervously back and forth outside the store, worried that they were getting closer to Washington. Where are Maya and Bones? He asked. They're supposed to help us, protect us. Some help they are. When was the last time we saw them? In that motel? We'll probably never see them again. They abandoned us. Look, they said they'd meet us in Washington, Pep told her brother. I believe them. Yeah, they also said we could relax and have fun until we got to Washington, Coke said bitterly. But Archie Clone almost killed us at the amusement park, and Mrs. Higgins almost killed us at the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. Maybe they are working together. Maya and Bones were nowhere in sight, and now we're getting all these ciphers? That makes no sense at all. You need to calm down, Pep said. We're going to need you to be sharp when we get to what DC. She was right, and Coke knew it. Usually it was Pep who was the nervous one, but the closer they got to Washington, the more anxious Coke had become. He reminded himself to stay strong, stay focused. One slip, and it could all be over for both of them. Okay, Mrs. McDonald said as she came out of the cell phone store and handed the twins their new phones. You kids need to be careful with these. We don't want to replace them again. Now, let's put some miles away today, Dr. McDonald said. Washington, here we come. Soon, they were cruising at 70 miles per hour down Interstate 76, a superhighway that starts near Akron, Ohio, and goes all the way to New Jersey. They had been in the state of Ohio for a long time, but soon this sign appeared at the side of the road. Pennsylvania welcomes you. Woohoo! Coke shouted. The Keystone State. We can get some Keystones here. What's a keystone? Asked Pep. I have no idea, Coke said, but I do know that Pennsylvania is a state of firsts. They had the first hospital in America, they had the first library and zoo, they had the first newspaper, and the first TV and radio broadcast. Pennsylvania had the first capital of the United States, and most importantly, the banana split was invented here. You are such a wealth of totally useless information, Pep said. You wish you were me, her brother replied. Dr. McDonald pushed his foot down on the accelerator just a little bit harder. The speedometer nudged past 70, well above the speed limit. He hoped he wouldn't get a ticket. All four McDonald looked out the window. After they had crossed the Pennsylvania state line, there was the definite feeling they had finally reached the eastern part of the country. They were just 287 miles from Washington now. It no longer felt like a distant land. 2 weeks earlier, Coke and Pep had been on the beach of the Pacific Ocean. Now, the Atlantic Ocean was just a few hours away. Soon, they would be in the nation's capital. As they looked out the window and watched the world go by, they wondered what awaited them in Washington.